And we are back with another random recap. I am here again as I've been recapping the challenge, but also on episode, I think it was number 4 that my brother joined me. Richard, you're back in action to talk about the challenge. These are the big episodes. You know, we've been watching the whole season. Episode 8 is basically starting off the final. Is it at this moment everything you were hoping for?
TJ's final. You forgot to say TJ.
Oh, you're one of those types. Okay, TJ's final. TJ and his attitude, though. You don't think he has an attitude. You just think he's like stern and
He's done it so long.
I know. Well, okay, fine. So we are at episode 8, TJ's final. How are you feeling about it? Like just watching 7 great episodes and then just getting that excitement because you know it's a 2-part finale. Are you generally excited of how it's been going for this season of Challenge All Stars? Like it was definitely something different. What do you think?
It definitely brought back the nostalgia of the
Mm-hmm.
old school challenges, and it has kind of mixed in with a few of the newer type challenges. It was a lot harder than I thought towards the end,
Yeah.
but and it's been interesting to see like how these people compete, and a lot of them, they've actually stepped up their game.
I like who I like the cast pretty much almost everybody. I would say the only person who I would say is not necessary to come back is like a Trishelle. Maybe a couple others. But Ace we may never see, but for the most part, I like who made
Well,
it
I
to the
think Arissa's the one that's gone for good.
Oh, come on, come on, come on. You never
I mean,
she's gonna win next final. Anyway,
when you go off with a 2-finger salute, I think you're kind of
well,
done.
I guess so. So right now we're coming off this last night. So the elimination basically just happened. Nehemiah, Kendall go home. Definitely like gut wrenching for them to go this far. But the energy of the show actually starts off really good. Sometimes when I talk with you about this show, I talk about the music. So we got Hip Hop Hooray by Naughty by Nature, which is totally fun for the vibe. This is like that night that they've all sort of found out that while they're not the eliminated ones, it's kind of party time until getting all this excitement for tomorrow. Like this is the final, or as you say, TJ's final. So it was kind of cool to see everybody
TJ's
get hyped.
final.
It was, don't you think it was hyped? It was like there was like a hype energy, which I really liked to see.
Well, you probably go into paranoia and everything throughout each week, and to hear that, you know, you're at the final, it's like a breath of fresh air for each one of them. Like, here we go. And now you go to a different mindset, not necessarily going for like, who am I going to get out or who's going to try to get me out to let's go.
Yeah.
Time
Yeah, you I think that you get to a point where you're like, just take a deep breath, you made it, and now let's get excited. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but Hasela and Anissa, they talk about their little issue. It was such a small moment, so we'll just kind of pass by it. I just don't think they're ever going to be friends again, so it kind of is what it is. But flashing forward, we've got TJ explaining this is the next morning, explaining what the final is going to be. It's going to, and a word that he said, which was interesting, was it's going to be held over the next couple of days. Now, something like that could obviously be maybe on the MTV version, very natural. But this for a lot of these contestants who haven't done this in 10 years, 15 years, doing a final more than one day is kind of daunting, I think.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you watch more of the newer ones, it's you get those 2-day finals, and a lot of times they gotta do the overnight thing, which is difficult. I think there might have been one or two where it's like you start the final in one country and go to another, so you don't know if it's one of those type of finals, or
Yeah.
it's like multiple day, but you're not going the whole time, or if it's one of these newer finals where it's just you're grinding pretty much 48 hours straight.
I guess you just don't know. It's different. So the sense of
Yeah.
difference, I think, kind of had a lot of people alert, unless you're like a Darrell who's been running, who's been in the current competitions, or like Derek or something like that. So I think that's pretty cool. Like this has everyone hype, everyone amped about what's going to happen. Real quick, talking about how it's going to go. So there was a lot going on for me. Tell me how you saw it. But basically, we've got each contestant is going to be switching up with one of the other contestants of the opposite gender. And then there's going to be a variety of mini challenges, which will take you to the checkpoint. and you'll be switching up once you get through all the checkpoints. So to me, real quick, and the last place team at checkpoint 2 is getting eliminated. So it kind of was a lot for you to digest if you are a contestant. Did you think that was just about enough, or do you think they needed more twists and turns? I think that was like just the right amount of shock.
Well, it's also, if you follow the last ones, like what you're as a contestant, you're thinking, okay, what type of challenges are we going to have? A lot of these ones, they always start off with the water, either swim or canoe or raft or some sort. And once he says, hey, last team there is eliminated, if you don't get eliminated that first one, then you can always make up later. You're just not trying to get eliminated on round one.
Okay, so like a little bit of strategy going into it.
Yeah. And then you also know there's probably going to be a run or a hike up a mountain, and always a food challenge. And it's just trying to pick your points of, and then there's something random sometimes.
Yeah, that's true. That's why I think like over predicting it is sort of difficult. Put a little bit of strategy. I think when you and I were talking about this, you had a really great point. You're like, pick your almost like you want to do good at the beginning, but maybe pick some of your weaker players in the middle, because you want to know that you end strong. and you mentioned that, and I actually think that's a decent
You don't
strategy.
want that person that could barely run a mile in their fifth leg where they're about to collapse, especially when they say that if you don't finish one of the legs with one, your partner gets eliminated too.
Right. Well, I'm glad no one had Beth as a partner, so we didn't have to worry about that. No joke. Or it was a joke. I'm not dissing Beth. But going to that concept, the only thing that's a challenge though is that you don't want to pick anyone weak at the beginning, because again, last place team on checkpoint 2 will be eliminated.
Yeah.
So
well, as you saw with Yes, it looked like he wanted to be Jimmy's, and the way they picked the partners was the way they finished. So he had his puzzle pretty much done, except for the one piece, and was waiting for her to put that last piece in at the same time. So he had that that partner that he wanted, which was smart.
Oh, okay. That is smart. You picked up on that. Well, let me do the team names real quick. That is great strategy. I didn't even like catch that. I didn't see that he kind of maneuvered that, and
well, I mean, they were right next to each other at the doing the puzzle, and then they show him talking. He's like, I've seen Jimmy carry this, so I want her, and I wouldn't mind being her partner. And you could see him kind of looking at her. He's like, ready, like, and put the last piece in at the same time.
Yeah, no, he's very smart. Let's break down the teams real quick. So we're gonna have Anissa and Alton, Yes and Jemmy, Ruthie and Mark, Kellyanne and Big Easy, Derek and Hisella, and Darrell and Janae. This is based on kind of what you're saying, that's kind of how it's broken down.
Yeah, because it was Elton and Anissa who finished first.
Yeah. For a moment there, when you said yes with that strategy, I was thinking he was first, because he was first so much going forward. But yeah, that's how it breaks down. What's interesting is that I think everyone chose the right partner, so that strategy did actually work. Now that the team,
well, obviously not the last place team.
well, somebody can't win. And I guess I would be nervous. I like the way Kellyanne sort of played that. She was nervous, but she was also like encouraging, which is, I guess necessary.
Well, are we going to say who finished last?
Yeah, it was Kellyanne and Big Easy.
Oh, for the puzzle, but not
for the puzzle. Yeah, for the puzzle, and then establishing that they're going to get to the canoe. We'll get to that in a minute. Yeah, well, I really did like the canoe moment. I don't know why. I think I liked it because it visually was stunning. I think that sometimes the challenge, they're
always great for that.
Yeah, and it also makes you kind of want to be.
It's always great for the videography of the scenery.
Yeah. Oh,
and
beautiful.
Just canoeing through these mountains and beautiful water.
Yeah, and I think that it makes you want to be a contestant. Some of these other mini challenges you don't, but like this kind of excited me. But I don't know if you picked up on this. I was a little bit surprised and shocked that I guess the weight distribution would have been a problem. And we started to see that with some of the teams. Well, specifically Alton.
Yeah, I mean, you could see the water water just gushing into the canoe. And I mean, at one point they were in first place, and then too much water got in where they had to, you know, the canoe flipped over and they had to get rid of everything, which dropped
Yeah.
them about 3 spots.
They did have to deal. It was a fun little moment. You see who's doing good, you see who's doing bad. But when they did fall, the soundtrack, the score had to be right on point with TLC Waterfalls. I thought that was great. Another song to mention too was Slow Motion by Juvenile, which I believe when you watched the show, you were kind of recalling that song, kind of takes you to a certain memory, high school or whatever.
There's some party memories
Yeah, I totally like, so not only
of
do you have a
going on
great
vacations to, putting myself in, like, if I was in that type of house of party mode.
that's what I'm saying. Like, the this challenge does still have sometimes like a fun vibe. The other MTV version is very like competitive. This still has a vibe of like summer camp and hanging with your friends. So a canoe, good music. I mean, I'm kind of into this part of the episode 8 here. Real quick, I'm gonna say who came in first place, which is gonna be 5 points for Darrell and Janae. So good on both of them. Really awesome to see Janae. Darrell's such a strong player, so you sort of expect it. Now, Richard, your thoughts on this team who was struggling. And the reason I'm going to ask you is because I assume from what I know about you, you do like Derek. You listen to the Challenge Mania podcast and just like Derek's gameplay. I don't think you're a favorite of Hasella's. So what did you feel while you were watching them go through their struggles?
Um, well, they both said that they're terrible in the water. So how I was talking about picking your partners. I mean, this is stuff, if you're going on final, you should know, like, if it's a partner thing, which it's been before, like, talk to the people. Hey, who does water stuff? Who does it? And it sounded like those two were both the worst in water. And then teaming up, it just made it even worse altogether.
That what, that's true. We only see the edit, but we hear from Anissa when she does her confessional. She says she's experienced in a canoe. You kind of know who's been in these environments. And then, well, okay, so to your point, that's a strategy move, but what if they just ended up with each other just because on accident? Because the way they played the tanagram,
Well,
they could have accidentally like sort of got together, right?
yeah, I mean, it's the little subtle moves that make big moves. And, these finals are a lot of luck, but preparation as well to the little details. I mean, if I'm going in a final, it's good to know where people come from, good to know their backstories for just throughout the game. It might get you off the block or not thrown into the arena. And then you learn these little things. Oh, did you play high school this? Or did you do, are you an athlete? Or, little things. Are you from the country? Do you swim a lot?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times in these finals, the little things, and are you a hiker? Are you that rapport with the person to hopefully not get voted in? But then when you see the final, you're out there and they got canoes lined up. You can kind of see what's coming.
Your Wi-Fi is giving a little fun, but yes, I hear what you say. You could see what's coming. So you're right that is something you should that is something that you should be aware of. Even if you don't know the extent, like moving forward on the second checkpoint, you don't know what's going to happen with the bicycle. You should still just kind of know like who's crafty, who's gonna, just who has the endurance. You're totally right. And that's something that I tend to forget. And these are the little tiny
Well,
nuances that help you.
and Johnny made that point. She saw Yes just staring at the bike. Like, she could see in his eyes
Yeah.
that he was already putting it together. She was like, well, I'll take Yes.
And that even he proved himself on episode 1. For one, we know he's an architect. For two, he did really good with like calculation type of challenges, which was the first challenge. He was like the star of his team. So that is Janae being not only good and coming in first place with Darrell, but being smart on the next pick. You're right. Janae's really sort of impressing everybody, I think. Richard, so let's talk about the second mini challenge, the checkpoint number 2. So this now, I think Mark says this leaves us with 10 players left. And you kind of alluded to the strategy of picking partners. Janae picks Yes. I'll go through the group here, but just real quick, what the challenge is: it's assembling the bike and being tethered together. Obviously, they don't know the extent of what the challenge will be, which I believe Darrell tried to ask TJ. TJ was like, "No, you just pick, and then you'll find out what the thing is." So there's a little strategy, but then there's also like a little bit of we got to kind of let it play out. Oh, and before the strategy of picking the players, uh, we see we do see Hasela and Derek go home. Were you bummed about Derek going home, Rich?
Well, it's one of those sliding doors type thing. You figure it's Big Easy between Big Easy, Kellyanne, Derek, and Gisela. One of those, two of those four are going home. Now we find out that it's Derek and Gisela go home, but what if it switched? And then Gisela, she's going up the bike on the mountain with her bad knee. What happens if she would have got, well, we'll get into, say one of the people, Darrell, yes, or someone at the top of the leaderboard, and she can't do one of the challenges and they go home. Even if they're at the top because she can't finish just because of her knee.
That's interesting because they never really addressed her knee after, you know what I mean? And I was just mentioning this on the other podcast I did where I was saying how like a couple episodes ago, Cyrus, he had the bad ankle and he's still kind of pushing through. Granted, Beth out of the Beth and Cyrus is sort of the one who's going to be dragging. Cyrus is sort of going to be pulling the weight. But what if Cyrus would have been doing that challenge with Kendall or Kellyanne or Ruthie, one of the top, Janae? Yeah, it would kind of suck. This is what makes the show sort of challenging.
So it's like the sliding doors type thing. Like obviously that didn't work, and we'll get into a little bit more of the final from what we know of. But just when TJ, or I think it's Elton in this episode, one of them says, "If I don't finish, my partner's eliminated." And it's like a big thing to think about. Like leg, any leg, if anyone doesn't finish.
I like that. From what I remember, Elton was referencing Ruthie, you know, but that was his mindset the whole way through, and that was his digging in, building the endurance. But anyways, yes, we'll get there. So again, it's Janae, yes, Darrell, Jemmy, Ruthie, Big Easy, Mark Anissa, Elton, and Kellyanne. Richard, who of those contestants, male or female, would you want to be tethered to? Who would be like the optimal person for this challenge for you?
The bike one?
Yeah, the bike one, but then also just knowing that you have to be tethered to somebody who, and I mean, in the game, you'd have to pick a female contestant, but just right now, I'm wondering who would you want to be tethered to? Who do you feel confident with?
I would have probably said Kellyanne, and the fact that she almost didn't even make that leg,
right,
would have been a huge thing.
Yeah, I knew right off the bat you wouldn't pick Jemmy because she's in the confessional. She's over here like
Jemmy has that line.
Yeah, she's like, I hire people.
I was like, you go on, girl. I mean, totally.
It's like she could be confident or whatever, but it's like this is called literally the challenge, you know. I think well, I'll get to later on. Anyways, I think, yeah, you pick somebody like Ruthie seems strong for this if I was picking a female contestant, and yeah, Kellyanne seems strong for this, but you're right, like, not to say that everyone's gonna make it, so you're this 10 is like, oh, we made it, you know.
Yeah, and you might want to save a person like Kellyanne for later on.
Such a good point. So we talked about Big Easy. Well, we didn't actually. Big Easy was arguing a bit with Ruthie, which is interesting because Ruthie's like, I don't really argue, or not in that way. So Big Easy is letting his tension get to him. And then Elton and Kellyanne, they are actually biking quite easily after they assemble the bike.
Oh my God, they're in last place when they start, right?
Yes.
And then it's like they're on a tandem bike ride on the strand on the beach and just, excuse me, please.
They're waving.
I was like, did they have a cocktail in their other hand?
It's funny. I like Hasela, but I know maybe some people don't. But it's funny. It's like as soon as Hasela left and like Elton wasn't dealing with her, it's like he went to being so easy to work with, choosing the right competitors. I mean, he didn't do that strong altogether, but in general, his like mood and his spirit, change. I think Hisela, for better or worse, kind of amped him up. So it's interesting to see how he did on his own. But they kicked ass. Kellyanne kicked ass with Elton. Which takes
Everyone else was falling and walking, and they were blowing bubblegum bubbles.
There was bikes
being through the streets.
Yeah, bikes being broken for other people, people like wanting to just give up, and then Alton's like, no, we got it, and Kellyanne's like, let's go, Alton. Coming in first place, though, they did well, but actually in first place for the 5 points is going to be Janae and Yes. So you're right about what you said, that Janae was very smart to say, okay, Yes is the one studying the bike. That kind of feels like something to take in consideration. So these are the little bits that I sometimes forget, and you're always kind of following on. Mini challenge number 3, checkpoint number 3 is going to be solving the puzzle. Let me see, we have all 5 points of the star must have 2 numbers that equal the sum. To me, Rich, that would be a bit challenging after doing one puzzle, after being in the canoe, after trying to assemble the bike, after like being tethered with the bike and going up all of these hills.
Wasn't that was the end of the bike?
Yeah. After
that's how they finished.
After the bike,
points didn't come until after they finished the bike and the puzzle.
Oh, the puzzle was part of the. Okay, yeah, I was a little confused on how like what constituted as like
because
the checkpoint. Yeah,
because Kellyanne and Elton ended up getting like 2 points, but they were like the second one up there because Kellyanne couldn't finish her puzzle.
Oh, okay. So just because, that's kind of a long one. That means you assembled the bike, were on the bike going up the hill, and you had to do that puzzle. Wow, that's kind of a lot.
Yeah, because they start off the third leg with a puzzle.
Gotcha.
Another puzzle.
There was a lot of.
This was like
watching the show, I was puzzled. What were you gonna say? This was what?
They're the difference maker, though.
It was what? One more time.
Puzzles are sometimes the difference maker.
They are, because you got people like I referenced Big Easy's having a little bit of a trouble with Ruthie, just in the
tanagram,
in the communication and the tanagram. But then when he gets to this other one, he's like, I got this. Like he was like, I was able to add it up. So
and
you just
was like add up the points to 15.
This one seemed hard like for me. You know what? Actually, I got to take it back. It seemed hard if you're moving too fast in your mind, but if you actually just read it quietly, digest the information, and say all 5 points of the star are going to have the 2 numbers that are going to equal the sum. If you kind of say it out loud and don't rush, I think it's a bit easier. And that's something that I think we all do as people. We sometimes get too excited and let that panic set in, and it makes an actual task way harder than it is. So maybe that's a good note for just anybody, really, whenever you get a challenge. No pun intended. We have Janae and Yes, they're moving quickly, and they do finish first. Okay, you were right about that order. Sorry, these notes are only so good, Richard. But it was a lot going on. Let's talk about picking teams for the next point. And at this point, you really don't know what's going to happen. You're like, is the day over? How much longer are we going? We even don't know. We, as the audience, the viewers, we're like, okay, it's a 2-day final. We just kind of know that. But for them, it could be a 3-day final. So it's kind of like, I would imagine being nice and tired around this time. But anyways, everyone's got a good attitude, I would say.
I think Anissa references that, or someone references that says like, we don't know how much we got left. Like, should we push more?
Yeah, I think that was
done, or save some more in the tank.
I think it was Jimmy who was kind of trying to calculate that, and really you can't calculate it. This is TJ's final, and he does what the heck he wants. So for the teams at this point, it's going to be Yes and Kellyanne. Ooh, that's strong. Janae and Mark, also strong, also very strong. Darrell and Ruthie, very strong. Jemmy and Alton, Jemmy's the one that kind of gets a little anxious, and then Big Easy and Anissa. So they're going to have to sprint at this point, this like round 3, as they're approaching the next checkpoint. For me, and it's a lot of running. Some people are getting tired, some people aren't, but I think the good use of music, once again, the funniest part is when Darrell picks up Ruthie, and when the song started coming up in the score of the placement of the song, I had said, that's an odd way to sort of start the song. Like, I'm familiar with the Whitney Houston song, I Will Always Love You, but it was like a weird way to start it. But then as a perfect edit will go, as it's being edited in, we see that Darrell picks her up. So almost like a like poetry in motion, like ballet, and then it kicks right with the chorus and I Will Always Love You by Whitney. And Ruthie's like super cute about it and she's smiling, and Darrell, like, you
Was
just
it
like,
like Dirty Dancing? Like I haven't seen. Like she picked her up,
yeah,
and
it
she had
was.
pure joy on her face.
Yeah, she's giggling, and you need these little moments, I think, when you're so competitive. It wasn't going to make or break. If anything, it just shows Darrell, like, it actually, what it reminded me of? It reminded me of, even though Ruthie's really tiny, that I'm like, oh yeah, Darrell's like a boxer. Like, Darrell's like super physically fit. Not that picking up Ruthie is anything big, but the way he was like, oh yeah, because I think right
Yeah,
before
he's
he,
probably used to carrying people
yeah,
her
and
weight.
training like this, because I think right before he said it or did it, he goes, Ruthie, what do you think? And she goes, yeah, you can carry me up the hill. She might have been joking, but he had her back, and it was funny, and it was great television, I thought, as well. I know you watched the
And then
challenge.
him calling out Mark at the same time, like, "Oh, here I come, Mark. See you,
Well,
Mark."
yeah, that little bit of, I wouldn't call it shit talking, but that little bit of like confidence that you could allude to somebody else and sort of push off. I think that's a great bit of gameplay, because you could get somebody who's just like dragging ass, super tired. You can like zoom by them with your little gusto and like, oh, this ain't nothing to me. That could kind of like, chip
Yeah,
away at you. So I thought that was very smart on Ruthie's end to be giggling. Like, if I was so tired, Richard, and I'm like, I can't do it, I'm so tired, this is it, and I see Darrell's punk ass do that move, I'd be like, damn it. It
you're
make me
like
want to
this
give up.
guy, this
Yeah,
fucking
kind of.
guy over here.
It kind of would do that. But anyways, for this particular portion, we've got the first place team for the 5 points is going to be Kellyanne and Yes. So wow, this is starting to get to a moment. Kellyanne, Yes, Darrell, and who else? Janae. Lots of sort of consistent winners at this moment, which is kind of cool. We have Anissa, Big Easy. I think while they struggled, they had a lot of good effort, which was really cool to watch, I think.
Well, they're both, in finals. Anissa's got eliminated a lot before the actual final. And we all know about Big Easy's history in a final. So
Yeah.
I think just them running it together, they're more about like, let's finish.
Yeah, we see Easy getting mad sometimes, but then also we see him having her back, which I thought was cool, and supporting each other. That's why I like to see that. It kind of balances out the show. Mini challenge checkpoint number 4. So we're gonna switch teams again. Richard, tell me what you think of these teams. Yes, Anissa, Kellyanne Darrell, Ruthie Alton, Jemmy and Mark, and Janae and Big Easy. This is as we're approaching these peppers, these daggone peppers. And then you're going to complete the puzzle right after the peppers. These are the Carolina Reapers, which the Carolina Reapers we are familiar with because we saw that with was it Tech and Nehemiah? So we've already seen it. We've already seen the effects.
And I think they both threw up.
I think they both did. I think when this part of the challenge came, I was pissed. If for the sake of the contestants, you as a viewer, were you into it? If you had to compete, would you have been pissed?
Well, you expect you're going to have to eat something on a final.
I
And
know,
you're
but they're
thinking
so
if it's
freaking.
just this little, well, you're thinking if it's just this little pepper, that's better than some of the things I've had to eat in the past. Because if anyone's tried to work that, try to go for a run after eating a full meal, it's not easy. So at least you're like,
Yeah.
this is kind of tiny and small, but then your face is like, Darrell comes, he's like, I got snot everywhere and, all over the place. So if you can't handle heat, definitely not an easy thing to do.
I think it was tough. I really thought it was a very difficult situation. I mean, it's good. We watch this show for these extreme competitive situations, but it would have sucked. My question though is, did each contestant in a team of 2, did each of them have to eat the same amount, like 2 each? Because I'm wondering, like, let's say if I don't know how many there were, but I thought there was like 4 each team, right? So like,
Yeah, I think it had to be 2 and 2.
okay, because I was sort of thinking that, like, who was it? There was a couple of people who talked a little shit, which is, awesome. Jemmy said
I think Big Easy.
and Big Easy. So this is what I wish could have happened for if I was playing the game. I wish that I could have said, "Oh, this is not my strong suit," and let's say Big Easy's my partner. Like, boom, Big Easy, you got this. You could take 3, I'll take 1. That would have been really cool. But I guess also fairness, the
I would say
distribution.
yeah, but no, because this isn't a team final.
Mhm.
Overall, it's a singles final because you get points as a team for that one round, but you're playing the overall score as a single. So if you pretty much don't have to do it, you're like skipping around.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah,
think that's why they made it have to be 2 and 2, because you have to participate in this round because overall it's a singles competition.
right. Because if I switch up with another teammate and you hooked me up, what do I get out of it? And then I'm
Yeah,
struggling.
yeah. So like if Big Easy eats all 4 and you're at the top of the leaderboard and he's at the bottom, I mean that's a strategy. Like Big Easy, you're not going to win. Like hook me up, so I don't have
Mm,
to have that.
I guess that makes more sense. Yeah, it was just something I had thought. Like, I was like, oh, can we as teammates have each other's back? Like, what I'm better at, what you're better at. But you're right. You don't even hold this teammate for more than a certain amount of time. Um, we've got Anissa, and yes, they're doing very well. But as we're getting back to running here, after the they've everyone has sort of had their chili. Stomach pains. We've got Jemmy, who does talk a little bit. I just mentioned a bit ago. She's like, I could do this. This is what I'm used to this. However, while she starts running, then it kind of changes the game. So even that right there is interesting. Like, I'm not a spicy food person, but I know some people are. But imagine you're like generally a spicy food person. Generally it's not an issue to you. And then all of a sudden, because you're in the nature of the competition, you're already pushing yourself to the limit, it does jack you up. That's tough. I think that's actually very tough. um
Yeah, I think that's with all the food parts of these. Like it messes up your stomach.
oh yeah, I
But I
mean,
mean, Jemmy, and I mean, she's probably just happy it's not catch up if we all go back a couple seasons. If you remember where she was deathly afraid of catch up when the RIP night was
oh yeah.
about to bring some out.
Yeah, everyone has their things, I guess, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
ketchup or these chilies. Well, I mean, she was confident, and that's good, but it did get the better of her. It also sort of, as we end this episode, it gets the better of Darrell, and to the point where
Oh yeah.
he called. Did you, as a viewer, have any like thought that he, of all of the people, would have called for a medic? Like, it's pretty crazy to see somebody who's so strong. You would probably feel like he has such a strong stomach already to deal with this type of thing. We've seen him eat on other challenges, but like, there is something different with the spicy food. I was
Yeah.
shocked. Good
Do you
cliffhanger
think
as
he's
well.
actually calling to the medic? Or he's kind of like talking Kellyanne, like, hey, I think I need a medic to be like, hey, I kind of need a second at least to like let her know how much pain he was in.
Mm.
So because she was like, come on, come on, come on, let's go, and be like, I might need a medic. And she's like, no, you don't need a medic, but maybe to give more emphasis on how much he was hurting at that point.
Oh, so this was
To
more
her.
this was like, because she was trying to, as every competitor will do, you'll try to motivate your teammate, whatever the obstacle is. It could be your legs are tired, it could be carrying the wood, as they did in one of the mini challenges earlier in the season. You're always going to have your thing. Come on, Elton, let's go. Come on, Elton, motivating.
Yeah.
Kellyanne was sort of getting in the motivating stage, and because Darrell is never usually one who drags ass for anything, maybe he got pissed and not pissed, but just, where do
Not
you go?
pissed, but like
Where do
just
you
to let her
go?
know how he was
Mm-hmm.
feeling. Like
Right.
not in his head thinking I'm going to actually need a medic, but like to let her know how serious he was feeling.
Yeah, like, this
Like,
is
give me
the
a second.
like, you got one more comment, Kellyanne, because like, I'm basically at medic level. So just like, give me a second. Okay, that could be it. Well, It could be it, but it made for such a great cliffhanger that I was like, "Oh, this is this is exciting."
Definitely.
Because I'm thinking like, episode 8 is ending. What's gonna happen next week? Episode 9. It's like, well, Darrell, is he gonna be eliminated? Like, and does that mean Kellyanne gets eliminated? Like, who comes back? Is Arissa and Derek back? Like, I just a lot of unanswered questions with that potential, but we'll get to. You don't see Arissa running the final ever. Oh, Richard, you
I
just
mean,
don't.
we talk about TJ send offs sometimes. Like, sometimes, oh, we'll definitely see you back, or oh, you've been great to have around. That's like the old person one. You're like, oh, they might not be come back. But for Arissa, who's like, okay, see you never.
Mm. So Richard's referring to, yes, on the challenge, it's TJ has a way with his words to sort of give you, not that the decision is made right in that moment, but you kind of know. I think referring to season 36, you had someone like Jay. Jay didn't go that far, but Jay did pretty good. He was great television. TJ send off was like, hey buddy, we can't wait to see you here again, at some point, maybe not season
Yeah, great
37.
job.
Right. And you're saying
Well,
my
I pay
joke.
attention to the send offs.
You're saying my joke about Arissa is like, no way will she ever, because he said, take a hike. Oh, Arissa.
Yeah.
Richard, Arissa's going to do great things. I don't know where, and I just believe in her. So I'll leave it at that, but maybe not in TJ's final. That wraps up episode 8. This was a lot going on watching the episode, but it really amped me up for episode 9, which we will discuss soon as well. Another random recap. That is my brother Richard, who has all the factual, strategic stuff. Loves sports, so I think when you watch, you come with your sports mindset. Me, I'm more like who was funny, which is another way to watch the show. But it's a good show. The Challenge, Paramount Plus. I think it's worth the while for Paramount Plus viewers and everybody. But I liked it. So we'll be back with the next episode. This was another random recap. We're out of here. Bye.